Welcome back to the Football Tragics. Morty, you're finally joining me again. Coincidental, Liverpool with a massive win. I don't know if those two go hand in hand, but it's definitely looking that way. But before we get into that game, obviously that was the final game of the round this morning. We're going to get through all the other ones before that. And we're going to start it off with Villa 3-0 over Newcastle. And tell me, did you see this one finishing 3-0 to Villa?
Definitely did not, considering Newcastle's current position and the fact that the end is just, it's inside. Like, they don't have anything else to worry about. They've just got to knuckle down for a few more games now. And they've collapsed. So whether this is just a slip up or whether this is a continual trend, we'll have to wait and see. But
we know that I think it was just after the World Cup they had a bit of a slump, and then they've seemed to have come good again since then. I think looking at their results, I know they're 4 or 5 wins in a row since they lost to City. So they've kind of picked themselves back up, got back into that third spot at the time. They've slipped to fourth now, but they went on a nice little run again, and that was perfect for them because they had started to creep back down the ladder. But then they come up against a Villa who, I mean, they're absolutely flying, and who knows how far they can go. They're maybe dreaming of Champions League football. I mean, they're only 6 points off Newcastle now in fourth. I don't want to say it's crazy because it is, but do you see this Villa team who, under Unai Emery, I think since his appointment or since have got the most points out of any team? Do you think it's realistic that they can get Champions League football?
It's a bit here or there. I'll see it when I believe it. I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's crazy and it's not out of the world. We're seeing stranger things happen, but there are a certain quality of teams that are struggling there or thereabouts that will probably get up for at least that game, I guess. If Villa do well and hold on, fair play to them. I'm not going to say it's the worst thing. Like, we've had high hopes of Villa since they've come up, but I think there might just be a few more teams that have, because it's just so not congested, but there's just so many that bottom past third place is just all over the shop.
Yeah, well, they're certainly on a good run of form, and I mean, Ollie Watkins is scoring at will, and that's what you need. If your striker's producing goals week in, week out, then you're gonna win games. It's as simple as that. They're flying at the minute, and Unai Emery deserves massive credit for them. Don't know if Champions League football is doable because, as you say, there are a number of teams fighting for those spots. And you look at, I mean, Brighton are just below them in 7th, a point behind, but 2 games in hand. Obviously, Liverpool, you're not having your best season, but realistically, you've got a game in hand over the likes of Spurs in 5th, and obviously you're only 9 points behind Newcastle, which is a lot, but going into this end of the season, a lot of results happen. And so maybe it's still on the cards for you guys. But yeah, I think down as far as 8, which is where I'll probably cap it for you guys, all those teams are fighting for 4th and 5th, I'd say. So yeah, this end of the season is going to be pretty massive for Champions League football spots. But Villa, I mean, credit to them, they're absolutely gone crazy right now, and to go out and blow a Newcastle team who were in good form and probably the overachievers of the season off the park is just crazy. And yeah, does this derail Newcastle season? I don't think so. I think they'll probably just pick themselves back up next week and get on with it. But yeah, the Champions League football is heating up. So let's get into the other side of the spectrum now. And we go into Southampton in bottom of the table. 2-0 loss to Crystal Palace. They're all gone, right? Like they're 6 points from safety, 5 points from safety, I see. But you just can't see them staying out the way they're playing football right now, right, Southampton?
No, and I think that they're dead last and will stay there. It's about the one thing I've got right this season, so I'll claim that tax. But
it's just like, it is crazy because they're not mathematically gone yet, obviously. Like 2 wins puts them onto 29 points and all of a sudden they're safe. But I just can't see where those wins are coming from. They just look depleted. And when Crystal Palace came there and just played off the park, and that's no discredit to Crystal Palace because under Roy Hodgson, they've been brilliant for the past 3 games, 3 wins in a row. But those are the games that you need to be getting up for. I can understand if a City comes to the St Mary's and wipes you off the park, but when there's teams around, from bottom, bottom half the table, so I even throw Chelsea in the mix. When all of those teams are coming to your home ground, you need to be producing something, and they just look very depleted, unfortunately. But yeah, I think they're all but gone. I just can't see a way back for them. But Palace, what are your thoughts on them? I mean, they're all of a sudden under Roy Hodgson. They've got a really good run of form going. They've got a pretty forgiving run coming up. Can they be dreaming of a top half finish when they were once relegation threatened?
I think we're at that awkward time of the season where teams have accepted they're not going to make some positions, but they haven't really had people start chasing them down to drop places. So they're going to grab some points now. They'll get it, but then come 4 or 5 more games, they'll just go, okay, teams are starting to get tough. They want 1 point. That's all they need. Palace kind of suffer when they come up against that sort of football. They love getting attacked and countering that. So, yeah, well, I doubt they'll make top 10.
So they've done enough to get safety, though. So obviously that would have been the plan with Roy Hodgson coming in. Do you think it was harsh that Patrick Vieira was given the flick, given that they obviously have a very forgiving run, and these 3 games that they've won since? I mean, does Patrick Vieira win those? I'm not sure.
It is, because you look at how Arteta's form kind of carried on, and then you look at what that's produced now. So it's hard to say whether Vieira would have won these games or not, but I guess they're in a very much different position. They're in a position where they could be out of the league, whereas Arsenal were just out of Europe, I guess, under Arteta at that time. So it's hard to make that correlation. But Vieira ball was looking like it was producing something. It just was probably missing a few more players. Yes, I know Hodgson's come in and they've played a different style of football, but Roy Hodgson, Crystal Palace, has never won anything for Palace. It just keeps them safe. So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because it's just, yeah.
I've never associated Roy Hodgson with entertaining football, though, and they are playing entertaining football. They're probably one of the best teams to watch right now. So he's got these players firing, and yes, I don't know. I don't personally know if Patrick Vieira would have won these games. He did have a kind run coming up, and that's why I thought it maybe was a bit harsh to sack him. With I suppose enough games to turn the season around, but it is a results-driven game. You have to make the decision. Roy Hodgson was available. He's come in and he's got them safe already. Within 3 games, I'd say they're safe. So, I mean, credit where credit's due. They've made the call and it's worked straight away. The same can't be said for the likes of Chelsea, where we've gotten rid of Graham Potter. Lampard's come in, and what's he done since then? You know what I mean? So it's worked out for them, and they're going to be safe for another year in the Premier League, and that's the big one for them. And I do agree, though, that they haven't really won it. Obviously, they haven't won anything. They're kind of just this team that's not quite a yo-yo club because they're not going down, but they're just kind of staying in the Premier League year in, year out. And I mean, yeah, I want to obviously compare them when we'll get into them a bit later. But Leicester, they've won the Premier League, they've won the FA Cup, but they're seriously close to going down this year. I mean, they're in the relegation zone. So do you trade the Premier League title? Do you trade the FA Cup for to return back to the Championship? I don't know. We'll get into that one a little bit. But we'll move on to another team that you'll love, Everton. They're very close to going down also. 3-1 loss to Fulham. I said last week that Fulham they're on a run of horrible form. They were also pushing for Europe, and then they've gone and lost 4 or 5 in a row. Finally turned it around, got that win against Everton. And, yeah, the only reason Everton are safe is because of goal difference. So what are your thoughts? Are they going down? What do you reckon?
As a Liverpool fan, if it wasn't for Liverpool itself, this would be a great season. But our team just stinks. So we get to bask in the glory of Everton almost going down, and possibly will, depending on certain results. But Fulham, I think that they've had a strong year. I mean, previously we've seen them just get absolutely rinsed in the league and just go straight back down. Credit to them. They've done the right thing. They've stayed reasonable with their expectations. They've grabbed results when they probably shouldn't have, but that hasn't meant that they've carried that on through the season. Like, they didn't take their the draw against Liverpool and a win against Chelsea or something, and they didn't expect to then just start winning against everyone else. They just kept it level-headed. They went on with it. Nil or draw here, draw there, win this, take the loss against City or whatever it was, but they've just remained plateaued, which is exactly what you need to do coming up into the. You just need to get settled in the league. So
yeah, I think look, a target for theirs would have obviously been just safety in the Premier League. You say that they are a bit of a yo-yo. They do go up, they do come down. We've seen it in the past. They've spent a lot of money and gone straight back down. So I think for them this season would have been just safety. Obviously, Mitchell is now serving a 8-game ban. He probably has 6 or so, I think, that left. So he started very well, obviously. Hasn't scored as many of late. But I suppose for them to manage without him currently is important. Do they slip down to 11th, 12th, maybe even 13th in the ladder? Probably not 13th. Maybe 12th is as far as that slip. But I think anywhere around there is a fantastic season for them. Anything, pushing Europe would have just been a massive overachievement. And maybe they couldn't have coped next year because they obviously have a bigger fixture list then. But yeah, it's a massive season for them. And I mean, fair play to Marco Silva because he's done wonderful there. And I don't think they've really broken the budget like they have in previous seasons. So kudos to them. But yeah, Everton, they are one of those teams that you almost say that they're just not too good to go down at this point. West Ham, Leeds, Everton, Leicester, all these teams, obviously on Forest and Southampton, but all these teams are fighting for relegation or against relegation. And I don't know if Everton is good enough to stay up at this point because I don't know. Obviously, Lampard got the sack. Sean Dyche came in, looked okay for a couple of games, but then he's kind of just still battling with a shit squad. So
they're just they've been run so terribly that this is now the end result. They've got no money. They can't bring anyone else in. They've had to sell anyone that was going to keep them up in previous seasons. And it's going to require a full house. Like if they go down, I don't expect them up within the next 3 years because they're just so enrooted and they're screwed up basically. Like it's going to be tough for them because they've also got that stadium too. So it's going to be a glorious championship stadium. But it's hard to see because. Sorry, go.
We've never seen them go down before. That's the crazy thing. We've seen the likes of a Newcastle go down, who it's probably crazy to go down. We've seen them go down and come back up, but we've also seen a Sunderland go down and go down again. So that could well and truly happen to Everton. We don't know. I think they would find it tough to come back up. I mean, Liverpool fans, obviously, Liverpool in general, would be absolutely loving that. But it is crazy to think that Everton could well and truly go down this season, if not for a couple or worse off teams, I suppose. So let's get into, I suppose, the middle of the pack now, because Wolves have, I reckon, secured their safety with a couple of good results here. A win against Chelsea, now a win against Brentford, who, again, like Fulham, were flying high to start with. But Wolves, they're on 34 now. I mean, obviously not mathematically safe. Still there and thereabouts. But, again, it's crazy what 2 or 3 wins in a row does for a team. They did it for Palace. Done it for Bournemouth as well, and now Wolves. I mean, they're, I suppose, turn their season around a little bit. What do you reckon?
Possibly, but Wolves they've been such a disappointment. Like, they made Europe that year, and they've just been downhill ever since. And, like, we laughed, and, they're just building the Portuguese side, and it's like building a chessboard without the king and queen on the board. Like, it wasn't gonna make anything. And, like, they've got good players, but they're not building a team. They're just building, oh yeah, well, we can't have him. We'll have him. He's almost the same. He's a bit cheaper and he's a bit shit, but they're not making the budget signing on some hope. They're not throwing it like they've just gone, here's $20 million. Each position's getting filled with $20 million. And that's not going to work in a team like Wolves, I think. So, I mean, they signed Diego Costa. Like, what for? What has he done?
Yeah, I mean, well, he did score this week, but it was obviously made half. He made it half for himself. I don't know if you saw the goal, but yeah, it was his first goal back in the Prem. But I agree. Like, a Diego Costa signing it was baffling because what is he, 35 or something? And this is his first league goal since joining Wolves back in January. So, and he's played most games since then. So, yeah, they just signed it. Like, that's a big name signing. It's like, oh, cool. We've brought in Diego Costa, but what's he really doing for the squad? What's he really bringing? But if they can turn their season around and get it back on track, stay up, maybe they'll do something. But do you think that, I personally think they probably will, but do you think they will go down the Leicester route and then they'll struggle again next year and slowly but surely go back in the Championship?
Well, I reckon they will, because I mean, Liverpool have been constantly like with the Nunes, and then yes, who knows? Who knows with them, because their players just keep getting older and older. They're holding on to Neves, and it's just a rough time for a Wolves fan. I don't even know any Wolves fans, to be honest. So,
no, I can't say I
don't feel sorry for anyone.
I think Ruben Neves would be one of the ones to go, whether a Spurs comes after him or even, a Villa or something, if they finish high enough and they have that pull. Because I suppose he's good enough to play, maybe not Champions League football, but he's could play Champions League football or European football in general. So Wolves, falling back down the pecking order isn't good for them, trying to keep a hold of their more important players. I mean, they had players like Adama Traore who could have gone for, 80 million a couple of seasons ago. We'll probably be lucky to go for 15, 20 now. So should have cashed in on him and rebuilt a proper squad. They kind of missed that boat now. But Brentford...
Well, they had the money.
Yeah.
They had the money. We signed Jota. They've done
exactly. That is very true. All right, now Brentford, though. Similar to Fulham, obviously, a very good overachieving season. They're now 5-6 games without a win, 3 losses in a row. What do you make of their season, and will they turn it around?
It's just another stagnant, safe season for Brentford. Like, we know their philosophy, the money ball run. So,
which isn't a bad thing,
really
though.
Expect it to.
It only just came up a couple of seasons ago.
It's conservative football, and it's. I think with the top 6 and the gap between that top 6 and the rest of the league, everyone else is trying to catch them so quickly, but that's never going to work. You have to play the Brentford role, and then start slowly coming into it, because instant success is never sustainable, and many a team has proven that. So, yeah, I mean, Tony still yet to be thrown in jail. Who knows? But who knows what's going on there? But it's just another season for them. They'll continue on.
Yeah, well, I assume his ban will get put in place, I suppose, after this season. Who knows how long he gets? He probably will get 6 months or so, but it just depends on the FA. Should be a lot longer, but I mean, the FA will probably get maybe 6 months or even less, and he'll be back playing next season. Who knows? I might just say off-season ban, and you can play the start of the season. I don't know. But,
no training. Yeah.
But we'll obviously wait to see how that one unravels. Let's get into, unfortunately, regrettably, my boys, a 2-1 loss at home. Lampard's first game back at home. I don't know. I was happy when I saw they went up 1-0 when we finally scored a goal for the first time in like 4 games. And then just the same thing happened. We just lost a game. I don't know what to say. We don't look like we want to win a game. We're sitting 11th now. I think we could finish 12th, 13th. And I don't know. It's not going to matter if we finish 12th or if we finish 11th. It's not looking good. We're not got European football next year, unless we win the Champions League miraculously. But yeah, European football is pretty much off the cards. It's just a dire season. I don't know what's going on. What do you think, though, from an outside point of view? How is it? Obviously bad, but
as enjoyable as it is, it'd be absolutely an absolute shit show, because the club's put money in. They haven't failed to sign players. They've given you the managers, but at the same time, they've kind of gone the Abramovich approach and just done it on steroids and just go, nah, gone. Next one, gone. Like, it's 3 managers in a season. Like, the Chelsea, like, as I when I talked about Arteta before, like, it's not like they're currently sitting 17th and at risk going down. Like, a new manager at this point of the season isn't going to come in and save anything. What's he going to do? Come in and play hoofball and not concede? What is that? That doesn't change Chelsea's position in the ladder. Like, it doesn't. That part doesn't really sit well for me. Like, sack him in the off season, give a manager a fresh slate, and just you go for it again. But I don't understand the point of sacking him out. I get that there's Champions League football, but at the same time, you could play that hoof. Do you tell Potter to just go in there, don't concede, and see what can happen? Because that's when you can just let the assistant come up with something. I don't know, but it just didn't make sense why he's getting sacked now. They're not going to get relegated. They're not missing. They're not in a top 4. Like it doesn't make much sense to me. Like that part of it doesn't make much sense. Chelsea, it's concerning because you're trying to play a style of football. Kai Havertz is not a 10 or 11. Like he's not that. He needs to be behind the striker. He needs a striker in front of him. It doesn't work. And you've basically signed the next region. Like Nkuku's coming next season. He's going to be a winger / attacking mid. You've got 40 of those already.
Should be that number 9, but I agree. Like he's not exactly that out and out number 9.
And we've seen what the Bundesliga doesn't translate. Like Lewandowski is the exception as a Bundesliga striker. Smaller. Yeah, sorry, Haaland is a bit. He was kind of just he's in a different breed, that alien. But what we see, like we see Werner, we see Nkuku, we see these players like the smaller, fast, quick on the ball, quick with their feet. They're banging goals in Germany. Come to the Prem, and it just doesn't work for them. Like you come up against Dan Burn, mate. There is no Dan Burn in Bundesliga.
Yeah.
Dan Burn just don't give a shit. You're gonna get an elbow to the head, like it sort of it doesn't function. So I don't know where Chelsea's headed at this point. It's worrying. It really is worrying.
It's a strange situation because I mean, you say Potter maybe should have stayed in that case, but like as a fan, you say he has to go because we need results now. You don't want to see a loss every week, but then you look at the Arteta whole project there, and like I suppose it's worked out now. So that's what I thought Potter was coming in for. That's why I thought we got rid of Tuchel, was to get Potter in and give him time no matter what happens this season. But yeah, so for then to go and sell Potter, get rid of Potter, and I don't know, something must have happened. The players must have been completely against him. But even since Lampard's come in, the players don't look like they care. It doesn't look like anybody wants to actually take the pitch. So I don't know what the hell's going on, because Lampard was supposed to be brought in to really fire the lads up and get I suppose the Chelsea way back into them and get a bit of passion back, but it hasn't happened. So I don't know.
I just question it too. Like look back and
you go.
You sold Rudiger, and then you spent all the money signing more centre backs and more defensive players anyway. Like, does it not look better? Just you might as well pay him $400K a week. It would have been cheaper for you at the end of the day. He's what's stopping you from Champions League currently. He wasn't like it just doesn't.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those sometimes. It's unless he's like, he's set on, I want to go to Real Madrid. Doesn't matter how much you offer me. But if it is literally just a contract thing and it's give me what I want and I'll stay, yeah, why wouldn't you keep a defender who's on top of his game right now? He's got a partnership with Thiago Silva. If you're going to go and sign 2-3 more defenders, they're going to be over 400K in total. Probably paying 800K between the 3-4 of them, whatever. Then you just keep the Rudiger and play on. But maybe he was adamant about going to Real Madrid, but I don't know. Yeah. But I agree for in that sense. What about Brighton though? I mean, we spoke about them very, very briefly before. They've got a couple games in hand on Spurs and Villa. They've got a game in hand on Newcastle. They're not far off Champions League football. Is it achievable?
I think Chelsea have done them a world of wonders getting rid of Potter for them. They've been absolutely on fire ever since. I'm not saying Potter did a terrible job, because he did great.
Potter put them in this position. That's the thing, though. And I don't think De Zerbi's done much different. I think he's just taken a Potter team and made it a little bit more of his own.
100%. It's just a bit of piss take on Potter. but it's props to it, because a couple of seasons ago, we were looking at Brighton going, as Australians, Matty Ryan's been sold. Like that was the best they were going to have. Where are they going to? They're going straight down. They sold Ben White. We thought they were just going straight down that season. All of a sudden, they're ahead of Liverpool. They're ahead of Chelsea. They've got games in hand, and we could be seeing Real Madrid v Brighton next year. That's what I'm paying to watch next year, apparently. So, credit to them. Why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Champions League, those, I'd say 4th spot, 5th, definitely, maybe even 3rd, depends how United kind of finish their season. But there's so many teams fighting out for it, and obviously I'll include you guys: Liverpool, Brighton, Villa, Spurs, Newcastle, United. There's so many teams fighting for those spots, and I don't see why a Villa or a Brighton can't take that spot because they're flying high, they're playing good football, and I suppose if you look at it, they deserve to be there because maybe Liverpool don't exactly deserve to be there based on your season overall. Obviously, Chelsea have had a shocking season, so there's times where these teams probably wouldn't get a chance to because they usually just finish 8th or 9th on the ladder. They're sitting higher, and yeah, fair play to them. They're getting the results. They deserve to be there. They've knocked off the bigger teams to get there as well. So could see Brighton versus Real Madrid. It'd be a pretty scary sight. What about Spurs, though? 3-2 loss at home in the, 90-something minute. They conceded that third goal. Bournemouth, again, they slipped up a little bit, but now they're as good as safe again. So you love speaking down about Spurs, so I'll let you take the lead there.
Well, this is probably where the decision was made the correct way of getting rid of their manager because I think he talked more shit about Tottenham than I ever have, and he's in charge of them. So, yeah, Spurs are a confusing one. But Danny, like, Levy, like, I don't know. I don't know what Tottenham's goal is. Like, they sit in that boardroom and go, what are we achieving this year? I don't know what... is anyone going to sit there straight face and say they were winning the league? Because they're not. They never make the signings to do that. They make decent signings that you go, yep, that's going to bolster their squad depth. And then you look at their squad and they've got a whole bunch of squad depth and Eric Dyer starting. What is going on? Harry Kane, he's going to go down as like the most unlucky striker ever in the Premier League because he just won't win a single thing. Get the Audi Cup. I'm sure Campo will. But it doesn't make sense. But then at the same time, you go, well, he keeps signing the contracts, so it's on him at this point. Like, he's not a Tottenham fan at heart; he's an Arsenal fan as a junior, as a kid. So
yeah, it gets to that point where, like, obviously, City wanted him that badly before Haaland came along. It could have been a different story. But he ended up signing that contract. He was lured into it. Maybe it was just because Levy just would refuse to sell him, but. Yeah, he's going to go down as that striker. Probably end up breaking the record for most goals ever scored in the Premier League, but he won't have anything else to show for it unless he goes to United. And even then, who knows? But yeah, Spurs, this season was a great chance for them to solidify themselves back in the top four. Obviously, they had Champions League football this year, but really get it for a second season in a row. We don't see that very often against Spurs. Because when you got the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool underperforming, this should be theirs, but they just don't seem like they want it. Every time they get back in that fifth spot or they get into that fourth spot, they just throw it away again. And this game was absolutely no exception. They scored an 88th minute equaliser, and they still go and lose the game in the 95th. I mean, it's laughable because Spurs just love a bottle and just continue that way. Yeah,
it's Spursy.
But Bournemouth again now 2 wins in the trot, 3 in the last 4. Who knows? They could. I mean, I'll say they're pretty much safe now. They've done well to just kind of get out of that little and give himself a little bit of breathing room in that relegation fight because you don't want to be You don't want to be going into the last 3-2 games needing points, and they're kind of out of that now. 10 games to go, 8 games to go. So fair play to them. All right, we move into City 3, Leicester 1. I mean, City. What do you think? Do you think they win the league? Obviously, we know Arsenal's result now. City can go a point behind them after they play their game in hand. Is it City's to lose, or is it still City tailing Arsenal?
Well, it's in Arsenal's hands. Arsenal are the ones that can take it away from City currently. City will robotically not lose a point from now on. This is the part of the season where they just think, all right, we saw it at the end of last season as well. Like, we thought that was home and hosed at half time, and then all of a sudden they come out with a different something else. They've just got that bench. They've got everything. They're injury free currently. Yes, I know that they're in the Champions League and blah 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 blah. So seeing where that goes currently, but yeah, I don't know. This is the season they're probably going to do it, and they've got a robot up top.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a season they do the double because they look scary good in the Champions League as well. They've obviously got a 3-0 lead over Bayern. and they should go through that. They shouldn't let that drop. But yeah, it is Arsenal's to lose. It is in their hands still. But when you look at the game they've got to play head to head, it's at the Etihad, and as you say, this end of the season, something just happens with Man City where they just don't lose a point. They can go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row, no worries. I think they've already won 6 or 7 in a row. So it's scary knowing that City are this good, and Arsenal will be kicking themselves. They continue to drop points now 2 games in a row because they had a pretty comfy lead. And I never thought it was like, yeah, they've got the league wrapped up, but it was a comfy lead, and it's something that they could have taken into the game at the Etihad and not even need a point at the Etihad and still won the league. But now it looks as though they're going to need 3 points at the Etihad to win the league, which is a tough ask. So City's probably favourites at this point. Do you still? What do you think? Do you say they're favourites, or is it still? Are you swinging towards Arsenal?
I think it'll still come down to their match, but yeah, it's hard to say City won't win it from now because Arsenal, they're literally only a draw slip away from now losing that title. So it's rough on them. They've been great all season, but this is why it's proven to be so hard to beat City over the thing, and everyone's going to feel that pain because everyone laughed at Liverpool for so long about it going close and blah, 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 and everything. But City are that good currently. So, yeah, and if they finally got that Champions League, it's just over for football. Until the robot goes to Madrid.
Leicester, on the other hand, obviously they're sitting in 19th. They look shocking. Brendan Rodgers is gone. Yeah, I mean, you're really loving that. But are they going down, or do you think that they might get their shit together before the end of the season and just scrape by?
Leicester are the only team in that bottom part with the quality players that you go, okay, they can actually, you look at it and go, 1 in 100 chance, but they have a chance of beating City. You don't look at Southampton. You don't look at any of these teams and go, oh, they're possible. Leicester have enough quality in that team to be able to get scrap points. They know how to scrap points. They should be the ones pushing out of there. I think they'll be the reason Everton end up down.
Interesting, but yeah, I completely agree with that. They have enough quality, but will they do it? Well, we'll have to wait and see. All right, obviously, speaking of Arsenal, we're going to go through that game. 2-2 draw with West Ham. They were 2-0 up. We know what happened at Anfield last week. They let that 2-0 lead slip, and they probably only just saved a point there because they could have lost it. I mean, West Ham, they were flying. They were up 2-0. Everything's looking good, back on track. And then all of a sudden they just take their foot off the gas, and then Saka misses a penalty at 2-1. And here we are, 2-2 draw, and they've slipped points again. What do you think of the game itself?
It's hard to say because West Ham have been disappointing all season, but we know they've shown they've had quality. It's not like it's a surprise that they can come out of a draw against Arsenal. If this was the result last year, you go, makes sense. Perfect. Not this season just because of the way it's gone. It's a bit out of the ordinary that Arsenal slipped up from here, but it's just hard to see. Like, if Arsenal were doing this sort of stuff at the start of the season, I think they'd be able to go on. But now it's just in the dressing room, it's going to be hard to keep up when they've gone lost points here, lost points there. Man City win 5-0, 1-3-1. They don't look like they look like second year is a win, and they're currently in 5th still. They're just cruising, like they're just going. So it's a hard job, but this is what'll happen. So
I always feel like Arsenal need to be playing before City each week, and obviously they didn't last week and they slipped up. But I feel like whenever they are trailing City in the week, they think about it too much and they overthink, and then they drop points. And I suppose, it did happen last week with the final game of the round, I believe. And it happens again. City have already got 3 points wrapped up. So if they play before City, it's like, pressure's off us, and they go up, win 3-4-0, no dramas. But when they know that City's on their tail and they've already won convincingly that week, it's like something scares them. And I thought that this would have been the exception against a team that are in the relegation fight, and they should run away with it at 2-0. But again, they've let it get to their heads. Something happened at halftime, whatever, and they just scrape by with a point. So the thing for me is they've got the opening game of the round next week. I've just checked. They're versing Southampton at home, so it's a beautiful game to bounce back. But
nice bounce back.
If Southampton can take a point from the Emirates, I mean, I think that's as good as their season you should be saying Arsenal no chance of winning the league because they have to go out and win that game. I mean, they have to go and win the game itself. No worries, 1-0 will do the job, but it should be a 3 or 4-0 win. And yeah, if they don't win that game, it'll be interesting to see if City play earlier. Yeah, does it have an influence on their season? But we'll wait and see next week how that one pans out. And I believe City Brighton apparently is postponed next week. Not sure why, but so they won't play.
Probably a
So
game crunch or something.
yeah, could be probably FA Cup. Sorry. So that means that again, Arsenal, if they win that game, can go. Well, they can go as high as 7 points clear again. City will obviously have 2 games in hand, but points on the board is important.
But this is where it's gone wrong for Arsenal all season. They've maintained this 6.7 point gap between City. But City have always had the game in hand. So your Arsenal fans going, la-di-da, where's 7 points clear, blah, 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 blah. And you sit there and go, man, City have got Haaland. Like, it's not a loss. You've got to take it as they've got the points. You're 1 point ahead or you're 2 points ahead. Because that's where it gets hard because you're Arsenal, you're sitting up there, you're cruising, you go, oh, draw against Liverpool, fair enough. Oh no, City are now 1 point behind us or 2 points behind us. And then again, draw a point. Oh no, City are right there. And without having done much, that's just exactly what happens.
Yeah, and with City, like you said earlier, being the chasers, they love it. They absolutely love just chasing a team down and taking every point they can possibly get from all their fixtures. And with Haaland up top, it just doesn't even look likely they'll drop points. But let's move on to United now. They've got that 3rd spot all but wrapped up. Obviously, not completely, not points-wise, but they look good enough to get that 3rd spot, get back into Champions League football. And Forest, I mean, it's an easy win here. It's made it a little harder. They didn't make it easy for themselves, but Forest aren't good enough. And for me, we'll be one of those teams going down if push comes to shove. And that's a shocker because of how much money they've spent. What do you reckon?
I think it's the same sort of thing. They've just spent so much money. When in reality, you just go, you could have had some great players and you just gone. You might as well have just signed 3 or 4 $60, $70 million players and gone, if they got injured, so be it. You've given them the thing, but they've just gone out and got 15 here, 15 there, 20 there, 10 there, 5 there.
Yeah. Every
single player, they've loaned this, loaned that. They've just spent so much money on this thing, but you can only put a certain amount of players on the park every day. You only make a certain amount of subs. There's no point having all these things if you're just trying to find the right team. Like, you're better off going, old mate that's just come up to the championship going, you want to earn a big contract this season, don't let him go. And he's going to do that. He doesn't give a shit. He's got nothing to prove. He goes straight back down. Oh, fair enough. But now you've got all these players that are just fighting for, I could be playing for this club or I could be playing for that club, but this bloke next to me is shit, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So
for me, it's still wild to see that Keylor Navas is in goals for Nottingham Forest and could be a championship player next year. I mean, yeah, he's I don't know.
Isn't he on loan? He's on loan though, isn't he?
No, I think it's a permanent signing, I believe. So, he's got a few Champions League under his belt, and now he's going to be a championship player. I mean, it's crazy. Now, for United, though, is 3rd spot in their first season under Ole with the Carabao Cup to the name, maybe even the FA Cup and Europa League as well, but say they don't win any of those. Is the Carabao Cup and 3rd place in the Champions League, 3rd place in the league, a good season, or should they have really been pushing for the title? Do they have the squad to push for the title this season?
For any club, that's a good season. You have to state it at that, because if I can't say that, then Liverpool's last season last year was shit too. But that's what we wanted. So that's what you've got to expect. But at the same time, it doesn't reflect well when United come out every season and it's just the murmurs, oh, we're winning the league this year, we're doing this, we're doing that. They're just shooting for the stars and they make the signings for it. But as you can see, that's just not what you need to do anymore. You can't do that. So, not a bad season, not a great season.
Direction. They're definitely building in the right direction under Ten Hag.
Yeah, they are. They've slowed down that massive spending. They haven't brought in a big name. Like, they've done right in that aspect, but you just get the feeling that next season we've stolen Haaland from City, or like they just meant like you're waiting for them to do something dumb like that, where it's just like
I think
they're
Kane
looking
will
for a
always be
shirt
that
name.
target. I think for them, I think they're always going to want that big Harry Kane up top.
Too late for that now, though. Like
Well,
Bruno
yeah,
Fernandes does not fit the role playing behind a Harry Kane. He doesn't do that. Like you see it, like it doesn't flow like that. He needs a player that's just going to run in, run out. Kane doesn't do that. Kane wants to be in the same position Fernandes is in. It's like a like for like player. Like they might do a different thing, but that's what it is. So I think it's a bit late for that now. And they're too ingrained in that. Kane isn't going to change. So
fair enough. All right, let's get into your boys. Finish it off. 6-1 over Leeds. Third time you've scored more than 6 in a game this season, but you're still obviously sitting 8th in the ladder. Is this game going to kick you into gear after a pretty bad run of form, a bad season really, and push on for possible Champions League football, if not European football at worst?
No, because we've done it twice now, and we've had shocking results since. So it's great to see. It's wonderful that we can pull this off, but you just go next week, we're just going to go out, there's a draw, or there's something dumb. We'll do something stupid. So I don't know where we go for this. That's exactly right. We could go out there and draw with them. Kayla Navas could rock up, have an absolute field day, block every single thing. We have 27 shots, 29 on target, fucking who knows what else, and we'll lose 1-0 or some dumb shit like that. So hard to say. It's great to see, Salah's back thing. Jota had a great game. Everyone got on the scoreboard. Trent, I think he's just had I don't think he's changed much throughout his career. I think he probably does need to look at it and go reassess. He can't keep doing the same thing he's been doing. But at the same time, what he was doing has been proven successful. I think it's more just the music around it, everything going on around it, that just because of the limelight's been on him, that people are now shining towards going, okay, well, we know that's there. We know it's going to be exposed. We're just going to go at it. Like he hasn't been attacked as much as he had in the last 2 seasons as he was in those other few years, but he hasn't really changed his role. So he does need to change his role. We saw in this game, he kind of moved into midfield a bit more. You did play it by the end of it. I was on my way to work, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the answer to it is, because I don't think moving into the midfield is going to be as successful as everyone thinks it will be, but at the same time we can't keep getting as exposed with him in that right back role. So whether we need to look at a CDM that's really going to just knuckle down and not move, because you see Henderson fills in there, all of a sudden Henderson's playing the ball to Salah at the top of the field. Fabinho is a bit better than that, but same sort of thing. But I can't say much. We won 6-1. It's a great game, but there's still teething issues.
I think with Trent, it's a fact of like, when we all know he wasn't a great defender, regardless of when you win games for fun and challenging City for the title and winning the title as well. But the thing that benefited him was Fabinho was on top of his game. Obviously Van Dijk and Wijnaldum definitely as well. All these other players were kind of helping him. So even when he got beat, it didn't matter. But now he's getting beat, and these other players also having a poor season, which makes Trent look like the bad guy. And he definitely is the bad guy at times because he is getting beat a lot. But there's nobody there to help him out and kind of clean up the mess. So Fabinho's had a poor season for me, and I'm sure you'd agree there. And Van Dijk, maybe not a poor season, but he's not been at his best, that's for sure. So if they can get back to their best...
Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. I was just going to say, if they can get back to their best, that then helps out Trent massively.
Yeah. I think the one thing that we've changed this season is because of Núñez. Núñez is just that rapid that we're going for that long ball over the top. Trent gets pulled upfield with it, but usually the ball's going through him, so he's carrying the ball with it, so the whole team's moving with him. Now, Trent's already up there. No, Núñez is chasing the ball, and then they've just gone, no worries, the rest of our team's back up there, hoof it back up to them, and all of a sudden Trent's 30 metres out of position. Like, I think that's probably where we need to cut it out and go, understand Núñez is rapid, but that ball is a, 3% ball chance of getting that over the head. It just doesn't need to be played as much as I think we're playing. We just need to go through the team, go through the motion. We tire them out. So, yeah. But this is when it works against Leeds, who have just been shit.
Yeah, and definitely defensively are not good enough. I want to ask real quickly, I mean, it's not even rumours yet, but Mane apparently is going to be leaving Bayern after his crazy bust up. Would you take him back at Liverpool, or is it like that ship sailed now?
100%. Like,
is there room for him though? Now that you've kind of signed the players to replace him?
Yeah, but we've lost. Like Bobby's going. Like, I think even this season, I think it's shown Salah that he can play every game, but he's just not going to be as effective as the previous seasons. Like he's going to get found out more, and I think Salah's kind of missed that because we all laugh at Núñez, but you look at his goal contributions this season, you go, how the hell's he done that? I did that this morning. I thought he was an absolute piss take. He's nominated for the team this season. But you look at the goal, and that's purely because there's 3 blokes marking Salah, and everyone's going, oh, Núñez is a Bambi, and the bloke just goes and does what he wants.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Or he'll contribute to a goal. I think having Mane back, I think Mane demands that respect. If Núñez is going to find that respect from the other teams, then fair enough. But I think Mane, just the sheer everything. Mane comes and sits on our bench. He plays against a Leeds, gets 3 goals. Like, he's happy with that. The bloke's a good guy. He's not. I don't know what's happened at Bayern, what happened in that change room, but you see, he just donates everything to charity. I think if we give him some money, he'll come back. Klopp loves him. He loves Klopp. I wouldn't hate it, but at the same time, I'd understand if you went and signed for who knows what. But I just no amount of attackers is enough, because you saw it this season. We've had all these players, but we had Jota out, Núñez out, Firmino injured, Salah missing game. Like, it's just that thing. That perfect purple patch we had is always going to be.
You mentioned pretty much every attacker but Luis Diaz, who did return this game. So again, he started
season. He's been out for that long. I forgot.
Yeah, and he's back now. So maybe you do get that season turned around, because he was massive. He's been a massive signing for him. He's actually been quite good, and probably the one that has replaced Mane. But yeah, I mean, you have had a lot of injuries. Diogo Jota obviously being back and scoring as well is massive. But yeah, be interesting to see if Mane to Liverpool surfaces. But I can't see it happening, but I wouldn't be surprised as well if it does.
Last minute Southampton signing to save them.
Jeez,
Return
on a street somehow. I don't know. I don't think so. But look, we're gonna wrap it up there. Get you finished on a high. Hopefully next week, maybe next week. Actually, no. Next week Chelsea's postponed as well because they're playing United, who are in FA Cup. So at least we don't lose for a week. That's my joy. I can look at next week. So that's where we'll end it. Morty, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.